All right, so last class we actually got a little bit behind, so we kind of sped through some of the topics. So I'll go over some of that stuff again, so we're not missing anything, and then we'll kind of carry on. We're trying to fit a lot of stuff in today, and as always, as everybody knows, I don't mind questions at all. But if it's a little longer question, we'll hang on to the end because this is our last class. And I'm actually going to be hanging out for a while, and I can sit and talk with you guys and answer all your questions and everything else today. All right, so part 4. Almost a little tear in my eye. It's our last one. Okay, so of course, since we're dealing with basically an outbreak of the grandparent scam in Windsor and Essex, we're seeing this almost every 2-3 days in the news. We're going to start with that message from Windsor Police again. Talk to your loved ones before the scammers. Talk to them first. So all the information that you're learning here, feel free to sit around at Timmy's and discuss it with your friends, or sit and discuss it during a Tupperware party. But discuss it is basically the main point that we're trying to get across to people, is talk to them about this kind of stuff, so you're also helping other people not feel so anxious about some of these scams and everything that's happening. Okay, so when the scammers try to scam you, it doesn't matter whether it's the email or your phone, sending you a text message, even people showing up at your door to sell you duct cleaning or to change your hot water tank. They're always trying to use certain techniques. And if you know that these techniques are the things that they're exploiting and trying to use, you can kind of diffuse some of this stuff and take away the ability for them to exploit you and con you in the first place. So most of the stuff that you're going to see, especially with some of the scam phone calls, they're going to call you, it's Canada Revenue. You owe them money. If you don't pay right away, they're going to arrest you. Or it's the police and your grandchild's in jail and needs bail money. They want to create this sense of urgency. Because basically with psychology, when that sense of urgency, humans, we have some weak spots, some little Achilles heels. When we make decisions quickly and rapidly, we don't always think through the results. We just want to respond very quickly, and that's not when we're at our best. So a lot of times they want to get to you through urgency, create a sense of fear, even a sense of sympathy with some of the scams that you might see online, and donate to Ukrainian refugees or stuff like that. They want to elicit a sense of sympathy from you to get you to donate to the things that they're trying to scam you with. So any kind of thing that requires your sympathy to help someone out, look into it first. See if it's legitimate, because we certainly don't want to stop people from helping each other. And of course, then there's the fear of missing out. There is a wonderful new Bitcoin investment, and you're going to miss out and miss the boat on making millions. So the fear of missing out and everybody else is doing it kind of psychology, these are all the things that they'll exploit most when they're trying to scam you. So we talked about this a little bit last week, but like I said, we kind of sped through things right at the end. So scareware is something that you usually see nowadays on the internet. It used to be from programs or viruses. They would pop things up on your computer to kind of scare you into calling some 1-800 number. A lot of that stuff has been taken care of with your security programs or antivirus scanners, all those kinds of things. So those don't happen in your computer very much. But what'll happen is when you're on a page on the internet, something like this will pop up and it'll lock your browser or lock your screen. You can't close it, so now you're afraid. So we're going right back to that sense of fear. So they'll try to scare you that something's wrong. You need to deal with it immediately, or else they'll get your identity, they'll get your credit card. They're doing something to try to scare you. And the majority of times, all this is nowadays anyway, is just a page on the internet. So I'll have people call me at my workplace. They'll ask me about, I see this message, is this legitimate? And the very first thing I can ask them is, well, are you on the internet right now? It's like, oh yeah, close the internet. Oh, okay, it's gone, thanks. So it is something really simple, but it's effective. So this is something that gets people a lot. And usually the intent that they're trying to get is to get you to call them and then give them access to your computer to fix the fake problem. And of course, once they do that, they're looking for passwords, they're looking for banking information, they're looking for any kind of personal information they can get out of being inside your computer. So all of them, I always hear all the time, well, it looked legitimate. Well, legitimate just means that they copied McAfee's logo off the internet and put it on their page, or Microsoft, or Norton, or any of the other ones. So all of these, to a T, every time you see something like this, it's fake, especially if it has a phone number attached to it. Because to our dismay, all these big companies, you can't find a phone number for support for most of them if you wanted. So the fact that they're popping this right up on your screen and giving you a phone number to call should kind of be a little bit of a red flag in the back of your mind that this might not be legitimate, because McAfee doesn't actually give me a phone number when there's a virus problem. They'll have, my program will ask me to scan the computer and won't be asking me to call the company. So right there, that should be some kind of message in your mind that this doesn't really sound right. So all of these messages, like I said, to a T, they're all fake. Some of them might use, really dire warnings. They're going to come and get you. Your credit is compromised. Your identity is compromised. All these types of phrases they use to try to get that fear and try to get that panic. So, as I was mentioning, most of the time you're going to see these, it's just on the internet. So if you take your internet browser, whether you use Chrome or Firefox or Opera or Safari, just close the program and all of a sudden the warning disappears. Most of them, they can still come from fake security programs, but like I said, most operating systems, modern operating systems and antivirus programs, they'll take care of these kinds of things. So most of these messages aren't actually coming from your computer. They're just coming from the internet. And of course, it also comes from getting that sense of urgency. Your security is about to expire. Now, of course, one of the reasons why phishing emails and stuff like that is such a problem is that this is the kind of marketing that some of these companies actually use. So when you buy some of these security products or whatever else, they're sending out emails by the end of your term saying your security is about to expire. You won't be secure unless you buy our stuff. Now, the scammers are just using the same tactics. So as long as you're aware of that, and as far as I mentioned with previous talks, as far as security software and stuff like that, just buy what you need. Don't worry about all the marketing pitches and whether or not you're going to be secure or not secure. If it's not a product that you even understand or know what it is, it's usually a good sign that you probably don't need it. Okay, so cut that fuse really, really quick by just closing your internet browser. Yeah. You can always restart the computer because sometimes they'll lock your browser so you can't actually close it. So there's no more little red X or a button on an Apple or anything else to close the page. Just restart the computer and it'll usually get rid of the message. You can run a security scan afterwards, but a lot of these pop-ups that happen in a browser, nothing has actually happened to your computer. You're actually not in any kind of threat. So there's no infection, there's no virus, there's no nothing else. But you can run a security scan afterwards just to make sure that your computer's okay. And of course, the other thing is ask for help. Over the years, the number of phone calls I've taken that just somebody literally just calling me and say, hey, what does this page mean? And I can tell them right away exactly what it means, or you can ask a friend or someone else who uses the computer might be more familiar with it. Don't be afraid to ask for help when it's stuff that you're not sure about. Okay, and again, we mentioned about online shopping and banking last week, but we kind of ran through it really fast at the end. So one of the big things that people really are nervous about with the online banking or shopping is whether or not it's secure. It is definitely secure. We have 7 billion people on the planet. A lot of them are using the internet, from the banks, their companies, payroll, you name it, credit cards. So the process of financial transactions is actually very secure. So a lot of the problems that you might run into with online banking or online shopping usually happens at the end points, not doing the actual shopping. So if you're shopping and giving credit card information to a website that you don't trust, well, that might be a problem on the end. On your end, if your computer's not safe, it's not secure, you don't have an antivirus, or your software is not up to date, that part can create some insecurity. But the process of doing the banking and the process of doing the shopping is actually very, very secure. So when you're online, of course, only just like regular life, if you're driving down the road and you see a store that doesn't exactly live up to the standards of somebody you'd like to give your credit card to, the same goes with the internet. The internet can kind of equalize things. It can be a very small business and have this very big, elaborate website, so you kind of don't see that, it's just some guy in his basement. So it can make you provide a little more trust to some websites because it looks a little more business-like and a little more legitimate. But be aware, just look into what the company is, just like you would with any other kind of purchase. Your websites should always have HTTPS. So when you're on a browser and you're on a website, you should see a little lock up near the address. So that tells you that it's a secure connection to that website. So if you don't see that when you're doing any kind of online banking or anything else, you're definitely not on a website that is going to keep your information secure. When you're doing online shopping, I would definitely recommend, when possible, use any kind of escrow payment. What an escrow payment, for people who aren't familiar with that term as far as finances is concerned, it's basically you paying money to a third party. The third party pays whoever's receiving the money. So you're insulated from direct association with whatever the purchase is. So for example, shopping on Amazon or shopping on eBay, you can shop and use something called PayPal. You pay PayPal, PayPal pays Amazon. So in the event of any kind of fraud or threat, or even with a fake purchase that you got scammed with, there's a level of insurance that the escrow services provide, and as far as purchase protection, similar to what you might end up with on your credit cards. One of the things I definitely recommend for online shopping, use a separate card when you're able to. Not all of us have the finances to have multiple cards laying around the house, but when you're able to, use a small limit credit card that is specifically just for your online shopping. So as you're going through and looking at your statement, the only thing you should be seeing on there is shopping stuff that you recognize. And of course, make sure the card has a limit per purchase and has insurance on it for online shopping or purchase protection. And of course, keep your devices updated. So the security and everything on your computer is only good, just like a flu shot. If you're not keeping that up to date, then you might not be protected from relevant threats that might be current. And of course, anytime I recommend with online shopping, use two-factor authentication. Or even if your bank or financial institution has it, use notifications. If I log into my bank, even from my home computer, my phone will start going off with messages that there's been a login. So if I'm at work and I'm not logging into my computer and I start seeing those messages, I can instantly deal with it and call the bank, call my credit card company. So it gives me that little bit of advance warning when something bad is happening. All right, social media. This is one of the things that we get ourselves into a lot of trouble. With a lot of hacks and what people think is they got their device hacked or got their account hacks, it's less of a hack and more of an information giveaway. You kind of stepped in something on your way on the internet, so to speak. So with social media, a lot of times we give away information in the thought of just sharing and having fun on the internet. Every single one of these is posts that you might see where a scammer is getting personal information about you that can be used elsewhere. So when you find out who your best friend is, the number of banks that have that as a security question, what street you grew up on, who was your favorite teacher, what's your dog's name? Every one of these things are security type questions that you might have on other accounts. So by giving this information away, you're doing one of two things. First, you're providing that information to people to put together about personalized information that can be used for security stuff. The second thing, and this is really important that a lot of people don't understand, and we're kind of crossing in and trying to be careful with how we present it, as basically you're putting up a red flag on you and your account that you are somebody that might be more gullible by liking and sharing information like this. When we see posts like this, and you can even try it yourself, if you see a post like this that's been shared from somebody you know on social media, when you look at the bottom of the post, you can see 200 people liked this post, 200 people shared this post. You can actually click that and it'll open up and show you the names of every one of those people. You don't have to know them, they don't have to be in your social circle. And I can tell you with a very high degree of certainty, if you click on one of those people's names and open up their Facebook profile, most of the time it's going to be unsecured. So you can scroll right through their Facebook page, find out all kinds of information about their relatives, their pets, what kind of car they drive, where they live, where they work, because they have it all wide open. So the type of person to share this stuff, unfortunately, is a lot of times connected with the type of person that has their stuff very insecure. So you're giving information away, and you're also putting a red flag on yourself that you're somebody that probably doesn't have your stuff very secure in the first place. So when you see posts like this, even if it's from a friend or even a business, sometimes business just want to put up a post to, have a little fun with their social media and get people to interact. This is not the kind of stuff to interact with, because this kind of information is the exact information that your bank might ask you to verify your identity. Yes?
So if you click the like, does it do the same thing?
It does. 200 likes, and I can click who are those people, get a whole list of their names, and then I can go through and click on each one of their profiles, and like I said, the majority of them will have it wide open. So unfortunately, like I said, there's a behavior connection between people that share or like this kind of stuff and the ones who have their stuff very insecure. So if you see people posting stuff like this, suggest that they take it down. And I would even suggest sending them a message, not putting your name on the post. Okay, so a big problem that we're having even locally, and this isn't just local, but it is something that we are seeing now in a whole bunch of different cities, different countries, everything else. They're using the same exact tactic. So what they'll do is they'll find all kinds of buy and sell and marketplace type pages. So they'll find the Windsor buy and sell or the Windsor free stuff marketplace, because you can go on those websites and you can post stuff. Anybody can do it. So what they'll do is they'll post stuff to get people to like and share. So this particular post, this exact post, was on 4 different Windsor buy and sell web pages. So what it says is, oh, this guy's running around stealing catalytic converters. Let's make him famous by sharing this post. So everybody's like, well, we want to get the bad guy and we want to share this information. We're helping our neighbors. So let's share that information. And then, of course, it was done in Marion, it was done in Dubach, it was done in Gatesburg, it was done in Davenport, all the same guy. He's really, really popular. He gets around a lot. So they'll change the post. It'll say, let's make this guy famous for stealing catalytic converters in Windsor. Everybody will share it. And about 3-4 weeks later, with 400 people sharing this, they'll suddenly change it to a real estate listing or something else, and it'll end up as a different type of scam. They have 400 people who've shared it, so now their fake rental property or their fake real estate property will now be shared right across Windsor. Don't share this stuff. The same thing happens with, oh, I found this little guy by the side of the road, he looks hurt. Please share the picture so the owner can be found. They'll do the exact same thing with this. They'll get people's sympathy because you want to help your neighbors find their dog. And 3-4 weeks later, they'll put up another fake posting, and it usually involves same thing, real estate scams or rental scam or something else. My own sister-in-law contacted me the other day. She's looking for a new home at the moment. Found a posting. The guy wanted to deposit upfront in cash and specifically told her, disregard any real estate signs on the front lawn. We fired that company, so just pretend they're not there. So of course that sounded a little fishy to her, so she gave me a call like people should. And yeah, it was definitely a scam, and we notified the police, and hopefully they're able to track down who the guy is. So stuff like this, it's trying to get your sympathy, trying to get your community involvement, get you to post and share for some poor lost dog or lost pet. Please don't share them. There was one that I found on the Windsor buy and sell page. It was about a lost pet that was hurt, and I looked up the photo. I did a reverse search on Google search, and it was a photo from a newspaper article from New York 7 years ago. They just take the picture, it's a picture of a dog, and they throw it up there. So you can reverse image search this stuff if you'd like. I would say it's probably not the best use of your time because they're all fake anyway. So you could dig down that rabbit hole if you'd like, but the likelihood that it's not a real posting is pretty high. Yes?
I found when I do reverse searches, the majority of Facebook come up with no hits.
Sometimes if it's an original picture that that person put up, then yeah, you won't find any. Or they've modified it. So if I take this picture and I do a reverse image search on it, it might find where this came from. If I take the picture and I crop it like this, it won't find it now, because that's a different picture than the one that's there. So just little tiny things they can do to it, and now it won't be found, because it doesn't qualify as the same picture.
Right.
So they'll do small things, but a lot of times they don't even put that much effort into it. Yes,
I see a lot of copy and paste onto your page.
please don't.
Yeah.
Yep, nice and simple.
I never do, but I just
That's
wonder,
right.
what's that?
And even if it's your own friends and they've taken a message from somewhere else, some feel-good message, copy and
Like
paste this.
usually breast cancer or some kind of thing.
That's right. Don't share theirs. Take yours and you can modify it, change it a little bit, do whatever. But if I take that exact message, so let's say this was the message and they're saying, please copy and share this. I can take the text of that and now go do a search on the internet and I can find everybody that copied and pasted it. So certain things, we want to be social. This is what social media is all about. But people exploit that. So as long as you're aware of that and you're not giving out information, people talk about social media kind of being like the town square and everybody just getting together and socializing. Sure, we can make that an equation to it. But when you're walking around in the town square, you don't have your driver's license hanging out of your pocket to tell people who you are. So the degree of privacy that you have when you are literally out in the town square, have that same degree of privacy with this, because they will exploit it here. So we want to reduce our digital footprint. With all the stuff I've taught you over the last couple classes, it basically comes down to trying to keep yourself a little more protected and not give out so much information on your own. So by having unsecured social media, anytime you like or share anything, people can look at that, not even people you know, find your name and go and click right into your profile. So if your stuff's insecure on the internet, you definitely shouldn't be somebody that's liking and sharing stuff. So I'd recommend getting into any of your social media, look at the privacy controls. Who can see your profile, who can look at your stuff. Secure it up so it's a little tighter and somebody in public access can't see what the name of your dog is. Don't use anything that is public knowledge for your security questions and answers. If people can find out what address you grew up on because you have it all over your social media, that's one of the questions the banks might ask you to verify what your identity is. So if you're going to change public knowledge for, like there's a lot of banks, I've actually written to a couple high-level banks and gotten right up to the corporate level and basically ask them, why are they asking about people's maiden name when you're doing security questions? You can do a public record search, you can do a search on Facebook. If I go on Facebook and I see all your relatives have a different last name than you can pretty much guess that that's probably your mother's maiden name. There, I've just found and cracked into your bank security question. So using questions like that is really, really weak and doing a disservice to their customers. So if you notice any companies you're dealing with using kind of questions that can be found out pretty easily, ask them to change their security questions. Don't feel you don't have a voice with some of these companies. One of the other problems, in general, most accounts for people to get into, they have to find out what your password is. Well, if you're using the same email everywhere you go, that's the only piece of information they have to find out about you. Now, whether you're using Cogeco or MNSI or Bell, Hotmail or Gmail or whatever mail service you're using, almost all of them give you multiple emails for free. So even if you have a Cogeco account, you can use like up to, I think, 5 different emails as part of your account. So you can use one account that is John Doe Banking at Cogeco, another one John Doe Shopping at Cogeco. And you can use different emails for different types of things. But if you use the same email on absolutely everything you do, then I have to find out what your email is and I have to find out what your password is. So even if I have one of those pieces of information, it's not that useful if you're not even using the same email on your bank. So you can break your stuff up a little bit and kind of diversify the information. So now they have to find out more pieces of information about you to be able to get into your stuff. Yes.
My grandson was telling me that there's a thing that when he goes to go online, you know how you can go to a website or something, they need your email?
Yep.
There's somewhere or a program that'll give you a temporary email?
There is, and I use one that I would highly recommend. There's others out there. I like the one I like, and I talk with the company owner several times, and the customer service is great. It's a program called IronVest. And like I said, there's others out there. You're welcome to look into them. I like IronVest because, like you
I
said,
didn't get that.
IronVest, kind of like a vest.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the name of the one I use myself for several years now. And it provides a fake email, and the email works. So if I want to jump on a site for chicken soup recipes and they're asking for my email, I can hit that. It'll provide a fake email, and when they send it to it, they will send it to me. But that company will never see my real email. Think of it just like using PayPal to buy on Amazon. They never actually encounter my actual financial information. They only get information from PayPal. So this is kind of the same thing. They give that company a fake email. When they email it, that the IronVest will send the email to me. So it's very useful. So technically, if I look through all my contacts and everything else, probably have close to 100 different emails. I don't even know what they are. But they're just random generated fake ones that work. That's provided by the company that I use. And like I said, there is other ones out there. There's KeyPass, there's Dashlane, there's several. You would have to look into them. I can't learn about all of them. I do know about the one that I use myself, so I guess I can't give a better recommendation. So the other problem, so reducing your digital footprint, obviously breaking up your email, so you're using different emails, not just different passwords. People that use the same password everywhere they go. I know it's a lot of work. Trust me, I have probably about 12 different Excel sheets of all my different passwords from my accounts. It's a lot to manage. Yeah.
Can you spell IronVest?
I'm sorry?
Can you spell IronVest?
IronVest. So IRON, V as in Victor, EST. IronVest. Like I said, there's others out there. I like them. I find their service very good, and I find their support very good too. Yes?
What are these companies called that sell the email IDs?
Different ones have different options. So there are ones that just are a password manager. There's other ones that it's a password manager and provides disposable emails. There's other ones that have the password management, disposable emails, and they'll even give you disposable credit cards for when you're shopping online. So it all depends, but find a service that has all the features you're looking for.
How am I going to search it on internet?
Research it by password managers. Yeah, so whether it's a plugin or an add-in or a program you download or a service you pay for, there's all sorts of different ones. So just because there's so many, it's kind of hard for me to go through all of them, but they are out there and they are useful. Now, of course, people do mention, well, if you're using all your passwords with the password management company, what if they get hacked? Well, yeah, that's true. It's with some of the security stuff and the computer stuff, the best thing I can say is you got to pick your battles. So having them manage my security and having them look after securing their company and their website so they don't get hacked, they're probably putting a lot more effort at it than I am on my computer. So I'd rather trust them with that and trust in their ability not to get hacked as compared to just my own stuff. So the same password everywhere is also a major, major problem. So this leads to, we talked about last time, something called credential stuffing. And with credential stuffing, they'll break into a weak website, find your password, and statistically the scammers know that about 60% of people reuse their passwords. So if I get a list of passwords just from a random website that has nothing to do with your money, I know that 60% of those people of that list I just got are using that password somewhere else. So I'll take a password from a chicken soup recipe website and I'll start plugging those passwords into Canada Revenue, CIBC, Visa, MasterCard, and all of a sudden I'm into your account because they know that 60% of people reuse their passwords everywhere they go. So break up your passwords. There's a reason why they tell you don't reuse them. There's a reason why they tell you to make them unique and complex. That's because they know that people are still having that bad habit of trying to memorize them. Because they try to memorize them, they reuse them everywhere they go. So try to break them up. Don't rely on memorizing them. Write stuff down. It's a lot safer.
I have a question, please.
Yep.
Like the Google, if you're using Gmail, and because it's linked to your YouTube and a few other things.
That's right.
Being bought by, so everywhere it will automatically, if you're online, it will automatically go to YouTube and other places.
That's right. They try to make it an all-encompassing service.
So how safe is that?
It's safe enough. Google is very secure website, and they take a lot of care with your security. But even with your Google account, you can make what's called aliases. So you can have one name as your main email account, and then you can have several aliases under them. When you sign up or do other things with different websites, you can use one of those aliases instead. And one of the good things about using aliases with your email provider, whether it's Hotmail or Gmail or any of them, when you try to sign in as an alias, it doesn't work. So your main email has your password, and you have a whole bunch of aliases underneath. Well, if somebody gets that alias and tries to sign in with your password attached to the alias, it doesn't work. You have to sign in with your main account. So it provides a different level of security for you by kind of breaking your information up. Okay, so we also talked about with social media, the other issue, liking and sharing stuff. It's basically providing a footprint across the internet of you being willing to share stuff. It kind of flags you as a target of somebody who's willing to fall for something or share something, even if they're not after you. They put up a post, you share it, you like it. Now the people who see your post are also vulnerable. So it kind of spreads, and they use the word viral when stuff goes around the internet. Viral is a really good way to describe it, for sure. Because just like a virus, it will just spread until somebody does a little bit of social distancing and stops it. Using the same username is also a little bit of a problem. Because just like using the same email everywhere, if your username when you're on social media or you're commenting on a website or a news site and you're leaving a comment and everywhere you go, the username you use is Fluffy Bunny Slippers. Well, I can go do a search over the internet and find out all the different places someone by the name of Fluffy Bunny Slippers might be putting up posts and find my way and track down to where you are. So break up the usernames that you're using, break up the emails you're using, and definitely use different passwords. If you put all that stuff together, it breaks up that trail that somebody can use to basically find and get more information about you on the internet. Because your Facebook page might have your birthday, your Twitter might have what your dog's name is, and it just cascades. And if it's all linked together with the same names, the same emails, the same usernames, then people know that all that information is all about the same person and basically put together all that information together on you. All right, romance scams are really, really easy to peel apart because just like some of the other tactics that are used in other types of scams, these things have basically a common script. And as soon as you start seeing what the script is, you can start peeling these things apart really easy. And that's one of the big focuses of some of the stuff that we present in the presentation, isn't just to tell you the basic information of, well, if it's too good to be true, don't fall for it, or watch out for people with romance scams. We try to go a little bit deeper and actually give you some knowledge of what these people are actually doing, because their scams change. They evolve their scams, they come up with different tactics, but if you understand what's behind what they're doing, then the different tactics, the different scams, the different whatever they're trying to come up with next year, you already kind of have a feeling of what exactly it is they're doing, and that gives you way more information to go forward and be safe. So usually the who with romance scams, it's somebody that you can't meet up in person. You know, they're an oil rig worker, or they're a doctor overseas, or God forbid, they're an astronaut. Something. They can't meet you for coffee in person because they're in another country doing this high-level, very expensive, gainfully employed job, but they can't meet up with you in person. That's why you can never actually meet this person and find out who they are. So you're going to find, and you can look these stories up, whatever the stories is that it's telling you. It might be a doctor overseas, a deployed military person, an oil rig worker. So there's something that's going to be inaccessible for you to meet in person. So why? Or what they're doing as far as this scam and what their story is and part of the lie. They will ask for urgent stuff. It's again, we're going back to that psychology of urgency. So they either have problems getting through a border, or their paperwork or belongings are stuck in customs. They need to borrow just a little bit of money. For some of them that can really, they know you got me on the hook. They'll even tell you right outright, you know what, I got to cover some gambling fees. It's really important or I'll be in trouble. They don't care what the story is, but it's always going to be something urgent. And then of course the how. Any of these scams, they all rely on the same thing. They're trying to get money from you in ways that aren't traceable. So they're going to ask you to physically send them money. Actually throw cash into an envelope and courier it off to them right away, or they're going to ask for gift cards, and whether it's Apple cards or Google Pay or Amazon cards, they're going to ask for something that isn't associated to any kind of bank account, so that you can't go back and trace where it was spent or what happens with it. So almost all the times it's going to be untraceable forms of currency that they're going to be asking you. So when you put all these together, it doesn't matter if they change their story, it doesn't matter if they change where they are, it doesn't matter if they change why they're asking for money. You understand what the reasonings behind some of these scams are, so you're not going to fall for it no matter what they come up with as their story. Okay, so we flew by this really quick, and I already had some questions today about power and stuff like that. As far as leaving your device on, it's not really that important. Back in the 80s, you used to have a home computer. You could turn it on and go take a nap while you waited for it to boot up. We don't have that problem anymore. Stuff boots up within minutes, or even some of them in seconds. Turn it on when you need it, turn it off when you don't. Especially in Windsor. I don't know if we still hold the title, but at one point we were considered the thunderstorm capital of Canada. We have all sorts of power issues, flickers, flutters, everything else. Turning your stuff off when you're not using it prevents those kind of problems. So in general, even a regular desktop computer that might be a low power one, as they consider it, it could be a 400 watt computer. Well, let's translate that into other devices. 4 100 watt light bulbs, and you're leaving it just sitting on in case you might need it at some point. Turn the stuff off, you'll save power. With the cost of the electricity right now, probably in your best benefit to turn this stuff off when you're not using it anyway. It prevents any kind of security threats. Not a lot of people actually get hacked for real. A lot of times it's something that we did that caused it or allowed them in, but there are people that do hack computers. It is a real threat. It's a low one, but it exists. If there's a virus or something going on with your computer, or somebody's trying to hack their way in, they can't do it if it's off. So it makes it really, really simple that you don't have to worry about the security of your computer when you're walked away from it and you don't notice what's happening. It'll extend the lifespan of your electronics. Stuff wears out. It doesn't matter if it's an electric drill, a blender, your fridge, the electric parts, the electric motors, electric fans, they wear out. So if you're shutting your stuff off when you're not using it, you're just extending the lifespan of stuff that you own. And consider using a UPS. This is different than a surge protector. So a UPS actually has a battery backup. So the power coming through from your electric circuits, it doesn't go directly to your device. It goes to the battery, and the battery powers your device. So any kind of flickers and flutters and everything else, that's all smoothed out before it's sent over to your device, so it protects it a lot better. Surge protectors and surge bars are a general nightmare for most people that I visit, to go to their homes, do a house call, and I see stuff that just brings a tear to my eye. So they're using power bars. So if you were doing this to an electric socket, most people would walk into a house and go, oh my God, I can't believe you're doing that to it. But if you unplug all of those and just put them in a nice orderly line, you're doing the same thing. This is really dangerous stuff. So these surge protectors, they don't give you more power than what the wall plug can provide. So if you're plugging a whole bunch of stuff into your power bar that you would never consider plugging into the socket by itself, you're probably using the power bar wrong. So the other thing is the power bars, they actually don't protect from much. What they are is a surge protector. So a very large surge, and they rate them in joules. So a very large surge of like 100,000 joules, like a lightning strike, it will trip the little breaker on that power bar. But it's the same kind of spike that you might have in your household just by your fuse box in the first place. So they're not really giving you anything that special. So a lot of times these lead to like a false sense of security about protecting your devices. So unless it's a very large spike, these won't trip. So larger and smaller fluctuations, the little power flickers we had with all those ice storms, these power bars won't do a thing. That's not what they're meant for. So the fluctuations and brownouts and the sudden on and offs, these won't protect from that. They will protect in case you get hit by lightning. I don't know anybody recently over the last couple of years that actually had their house hit by lightning. It does happen all the time, of course, but it's not that prevalent. So if this is what you're using to protect your $4,000 device or your $2,000 TV or your $1,500 MacBook, you're not doing yourselves any favors. Use something that's a UPS instead for important electronics. Yes?
Once it had, say, a whatever joules and it tripped, is it okay to use it again after?
Some, yeah.
Or does it wreck it and then you should
Yeah,
check
unfortunately,
it?
there's no consistent answer because there's no standard. So some of them, when you plug them in and you see this little red light on that power bar flickering all the time, some that doesn't mean anything. Other, it means that the fuse is no good anymore. So you might as well just be using an extension cord. But I can't tell you that that means that right across the board because there's no standardization with them.
Are there any numbers that is safe actually to put in, plug into a power bar? So 1 or 2, because some
Yep.
power bars are 5, 6.
Yeah, just imagine in your mind you're plugging the same thing into the wall socket.
So would you say 2 would be
Yeah.
safer than 5? Obviously, I know that. but-
Yeah, if it's the amount of stuff that's within, like if it's a 10, 15, 20 amp breaker and, plugging in 3 or 4 phone chargers is fine. Plugging 3 or 4 computers in, probably not. So it's the same thing, the kind of,
Because you mentioned that the iPads use very little power.
that's right.
So therefore, with 2 or 3,
You're just fine,
Okay.
yeah. Whether or not the bar protects you,
Yeah.
that's another question.
Yeah.
But yeah, if it's a whole bunch of low voltage things, sure, that's not gonna present a threat. But if it's higher voltage stuff and you're plugging it all in there, you're gonna run into a problem.
thank you.
Okay, and even if it's just a inexpensive power bar, you can notice the quality of different protection equipment if the packaging actually states that it has an insurance policy. So if it's just a little $5 power bar that you got from the dollar store or Walmart, you don't see anything written on the package of any kind of insurance, then basically all you're using is a cheap extension cord. So even if it is just a power bar, make sure the device actually lists that it has insurance in case something does go wrong. Okay, and of course with all your security stuff, mentioning about passwords and accounts and keeping track of everything, emergency access is a really big problem. So whether it's not a family member that unfortunately might pass away, or you get in an accident or something happens, we're literally here hosted by the Brain Injury Association. Anything from a concussion to a traumatic car accident, and now nobody knows what your passwords were and you don't remember what they were either. Write this stuff down for other family members. If something happens, you end up hospitalized, whatever else, they can access your stuff if needed. So if you are hospitalized or if there is a death or something else to worry about, that's a traumatic incident for just about anybody that you know and care about. Don't cause further pain to them by making them have to dance around taking care of your accounts. They're already having a hard time already. So write some stuff down, even if it's just the important stuff, your bank accounts, your credit cards, your social media that they need to shut down afterwards or whatever else. Give them a hand in dealing with a difficult time and make sure there's at least some record of some of the stuff that you have. Yep.
I did recently see on the news that they were saying that there's issues where when someone passes away, the people at the funeral have actually been asked for that person's thumbprint or whatever, if that's what they used in order to access their phone.
Yep.
Or optical or whatever. because
That's right.
That's the only way in.
Yeah, but if they had, instead of a password, instead of the thumbprint, you wrote down somewhere what your password was, you could get in. You wouldn't need to go to that extreme.
Yeah, you can do either, right? So
Yeah.
if you don't have that, then they can just go to the password.
That's right. But yeah, if you can imagine being a relative, son, daughter, spouse, husband, whatever, and you're asking a funeral director to get you a fingerprint, you're putting your family member in a pretty tough situation. Just write this stuff down for them. So, of course, keep this information in a safe place. You can even put it in the safety deposit box, put it somewhere in your house, let your family, kids, spouse, let them know where the information is so they can access it. This goes on a lot more than people think because, well, people end up in the hospital or end up in an accident or pass away literally every day. This is a very common issue. So, of course, make sure that you write this stuff down and don't make your family members go even more crazy than they are. So, with all of it, many of the scams and breaches, whether you're talking to our wonderful guys in our financial crimes unit or dealing with other stuff or dealing with online fraud, a lot of it requires your participation. The scam or fraud or whatever else cannot happen if you don't participate or follow instructions or do what the scammer is telling you to do. Somebody calls you and says, your computer's infected, we need access to your computer, and you hang up the phone. That participation is broke right there. There's no more threat. So a lot of stuff requires you to participate. Send us a little bit of money so we can activate your account. Allow us into your computer. Send a deposit for this rental. It requires you to be active to get the scammer to basically succeed with the scam. So anything you know about all of these scams and all the information, you're diffusing all of this kind of stuff right away. None of it presents further threats. If you get an email saying, this is Visa and you need to log in to check your account and you don't do it, there's no more threat. It's already been diffused. So the majority of it does require user participation. Now the problem with the user participation part is because it gets your participation to make the scam happen, a lot of people afterwards will blame themselves. I can't believe I fell for this, I was so stupid. You're not stupid. This is a multi-billion-dollar worldwide industry. These guys are pros. They know what they're doing. They know the psychology of how to get you. They know the things to say with their scripts and stuff on the phone or in the email. So you're up against somebody who is basically spending a lot of time learning how to do this stuff. So feeling that you were stupid because you got scammed is just self-defeating and doesn't really accomplish much. The other problem is blaming family members when they get scammed. It is a situation, especially as people get older and their decision-making gets a little questionable at times. They'll have their adult children basically give them crap for falling for something or take away their bank accounts or take away their credit cards. We don't want to put that kind of blame on them. It's not their fault. So take the blame down, whether it's blame that you're blaming family members for getting scammed or even blaming yourself. You should never feel ashamed or embarrassed. Like I was saying, these guys are professionals. So as long as you can diffuse what's going on and what the scam is by giving yourself some time to think about it, you usually diffuse a lot of the scams right away. Always report these problems. So with stats in Canada over the last couple of years, the RCMP estimate that we only report about 3 to 5% of online scams. And the problem with that is the majority of people are feeling really stupid for falling for it. They're embarrassed about it. If it was some romance scam, well, they have to pass over all their texts of stuff they said back and forth to the police. They might find it embarrassing. But either way, it's something that needs to be reported. So always report these problems whenever you can, especially if it involves any kind of loss of identity or any kind of financial loss. And of course, get help when needed. If you got something going on, whether it's some person overseas who wants to get romantically involved with you or some kind of scam or email or something, just ask somebody. Don't be afraid to get a little bit of help, see if something's legitimate or real. It only takes a few seconds, where some of the damage that can be caused from this stuff will literally last for years. So putting off some of these decisions and then asking somebody for a little bit of advice is well worth it. Okay, so over the last couple classes, probably the most important things are listed right here. If you fell asleep through all of it or didn't attend any of the other ones, if you take this page right here, get a t-shirt, get a tattoo, whatever it is you want to do, this stuff is probably the most important stuff out of all the classes. So take steps to reduce any kind of digital anxiety that you guys are dealing with. So being more familiar with the computer, what the computer does, how to do things. If somebody's calling you up and telling you that you have 15 viruses on your computer, but meanwhile, you know, you're pretty familiar with your computer, you've run some scans, you're pretty sure it's safe, you have a feeling of comfort with what you're doing, so any of those scams won't mean anything to you, and you've already diffused them just by upping your comfort level in the stuff that you're dealing with. Definitely use better password habits. Like I was saying, the big problem is with people trying to remember them, so you're likely to forget them. Ask any person in law enforcement standing in a court of law asking 5 different witnesses to an event, and every witness will give a different statement of occurrence. We don't have very good memories. So relying on them for all your finances, your banking, all those kind of things, is definitely not a good practice. Write the stuff down. And of course, use different passwords, because if the scammers know already that you're likely to use those passwords everywhere you go, they will find where you've used it again. Don't reply to phishing emails, text messages, or phone calls. Don't bother chatting with them, don't bother responding, and of course with emails, never hit the unsubscribe button, because all that does is just verify to a scammer that there's a live person at that email. You'll probably just end up getting more emails anyway. With some of the phone calls, if you engage or even drag them on for a little while because it's a little fun, now the guy might get irritated and put you on the list of somebody to be called back, and you'll end up getting more phone calls. Just hang up on these guys, delete the email, delete the text message. If it's a text message or a phone call, you can go through steps on your phone. You can actually report it as a fraud call. And with emails, you can block it or report it as spam. Oops. Don't allow strangers into your device. That is one of the common things that happens with a lot of different scams, is they're looking to log into your computer, check all your passwords, check all your documents, see that you have your taxes all stored in nice, neat PDFs in your document folder. They're going to look for all kinds of private information within seconds of them getting in. So unless it's somebody you actually recognize, or it's a service that you recognize, not a service that says they're authorized, but somebody you actually recognize, I wouldn't allow anybody into your computer. As a technician, I can do that and log into your computer and help you from my office. I'm somebody that you actually know and you can verify locally, whereas just some company that you found a phone number online, I'd be a little more suspect about allowing them access into your computer. Always reduce your digital footprint. So as mentioned before, if you can break up your personal information, diversify it a little bit, you don't leave a constant trail all across the internet associated with your name or your identity. And ask for advice whenever needed. If something on your screen or something pops up, or you get a message or whatever else, just ask people. They might have seen the same message, or somebody knowledgeable, whether it's somebody in the computer industry, a family member, or somebody in law enforcement. Just ask for help. They'd rather see that than you report that you just lost $15,000 in another scam. And of course, don't be afraid to report this stuff. There isn't any of the law enforcement people or people in the computer industry that are going to look at you like you're an idiot and it's all your fault. So don't be embarrassed about this stuff. These guys are good. With a lot of information that you've gotten over the last couple of sessions here, you're going to understand a lot of these scams. But either way, don't be afraid to report it anytime that fraud occurs. And of course, like I said, I wish I had copies of the book to give out, but we're kind of at the end of all the copies that we had given out in Windsor. There was thousands and thousands, and we've literally run out of them. but it is available right on the Windsor Police website. So if you go to their main Windsor Police, their home page, there's a little scroller that has different things. If you go to the fourth item, you can actually pull up a full copy of the book in a PDF document. And if you want to get a hold of Anna or myself, any questions about the presentation, please feel free to get a hold of us. And, well, I am a director with Crime Stoppers, so you can get a hold of me if you need me for any information associated with these guys or doing presentations. And I do need to make a living, so if you need some computer repairs or whatever else, you're welcome to get a hold of me at my workplace. So, in general, definitely want to thank Anna, wherever she's hiding, way back there. Oh, over there. Yeah, Anna and the Brain Injury Association, and of course the volunteers. You guys are absolutely doing a wonderful job, and our video guys as well. And of course, even my editor and director, Mr. Connor. So that's pretty much it. So big round of applause for all these people who brought this together.